Hello and welcome to Midnight Mumblings with Zak and Cheyenne. I'm Zak,
I'm Cheyenne.
and this is our first ever podcast.
Our
So
first ever
welcome.
one. Hello, guys.
It's exciting times.
I know, I'm so excited.
The idea behind this is me and Shay, we watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV, we read books and stuff, and we always end up talking about them quite late at night.
When we should be sleeping, really.
Exactly, midnight mumblings, get it? So we thought, why not put what we talk about all the time into a podcast and see if people listen. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. So what we're thinking of doing is we're going to like chunk it up into a bit about movies, a bit about TV, and then a bit about books.
And maybe some fun facts at the end, something to like tickle your brain.
Ooh, a little brain tickle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That should be our fun fact section. Brain tickles.
Brain tickles. There you go. So we're going to start off with talking about movies, and because of the time of year, January, with New Year, but looking back over 2024, we're going to have a little chat about our favorite movies of 2024. We're going to pick like a top 5. We might not be like ordering them, but just talking about our 5 favorite movies that we saw last year. So my top 5 of 2024. I'm gonna go 5 upwards. That seems like the normal way that most people do a top 5.
Yeah, makes sense.
So 5 for me was A Quiet Place Day 1. And it's interesting because this year, something that you'll learn if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time is I hate horror films.
He's so squeamish as well.
Yeah, yes.
So jumpy.
And Shay loves them, don't you?
Oh yeah, I love a good film that makes you just like writhe in your seat and like makes you feel uncomfortable.
So 2 complete opposites. We do watch movies that we both like as well, but we do have movies where it's like, you watch that on your own, I'm good. So I usually like have to have Shay like tell me how bad a movie is, but I really enjoy the Quiet Place movies. They've got a really good tension, they've got a really good story, and they've got this kind of fun kind of quirk to them of like the having to be so quiet and that. But when I heard this one was announced, I thought, oh my goodness, they're really milking it, because the first 2 were good, but I was like, are they really going to be able to do much with it? I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a pretty good film with great acting, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Lupita's performance.
Lupita killed it.
Was it Joseph Quinn?
Joseph Quinn as well, yeah. I was like, okay, he's had one hit with, what's it called? Stranger Things. Is he just going to be like they're hiring him because he's the in person? But he did a really good job.
Yeah, to like really be entertained by an average white man in a suit in such a big movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. I think we're overlooking probably the best actor of all.
Oh, the cat.
The cat. The cat was incredible throughout.
Yeah.
I don't know how often it was just a toy and how often it was a real cat, but I know that there was a real cat in it.
I mean, especially like the bit they had to do a lot of like water scenes, and there's a bit where the cat does get submerged a little bit, and you're like, is the cat still in there?
Yeah. So I'm trying to find the name of the cat, but I can't now. But the cat was top tier. He was a very cool addition, and it would just made me like the movie even more. I'm a bit of a cat person as well, so but yeah, that was my number 5. Going completely separate, like different directions for the type of movie. My 4th was actually one which probably I don't think a lot of people would have watched because it was out on Apple TV, and it was Wolves, which is the Brad Pitt and George Clooney. I mean, how do you describe this movie? What was Wolves?
I feel like they just took the 2 most memorable actors from
Ocean's
the Ocean's movies, and they were like, well, this is good enough to make a movie on its own with the same kind of energy as well.
I think like the thing is in Ocean's 11, their energy was really fun. It was really entertaining, and like I think that they definitely said let's just do that again, but in a different story. But I really like the story. I thought that the they obviously wanted that humor as the main focal point, but the story was pretty cool. The kind of way that the because it's kind of a bit of a mystery thriller comedy, I would say.
Yeah.
So like kind of the mystery of what was going on as it unfolded was really well done, and it didn't really leave you thinking I know exactly what's happening. But yeah, overall, it just I like movies which are a bit more of a cheer me up. Shay does not.
I'm more like, it has to be more miserable than my imagination.
So it's quite a hard thing to do. But yeah, so it cheered me up, and I thought it was quite a fun film. So
Actually, my favorite character in that film was the Stoner Kid.
the Stoner Kid was great as well. I don't even know who played him.
He was he kind of was
Let me Google it.
immortal.
What's it from Immortal?
No, he's not from Immortal. He is that fact that he's unkillable.
Oh,
He
okay.
always got into situations.
I get what you mean. Yes, he was. Yeah, very.
Or maybe it's that spoiler.
He had the main character shield on for a lot of it. Yeah, sorry if that's a spoiler. We might accidentally spoil things. Apologies. We're trying not to. But his name was Austin Abrams. I've never.
Is he in anything?
I didn't
else?
recognize his face or anything. I'm just having a quick look to see what he was in. That's why I haven't seen him in stuff. He was in a horror movie in 2019. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Not my kind of thing, obviously. Gangster Squad in 2013.
Oh, he was in Paper Towns, but actually I haven't seen that one either.
So yeah, he's been in movies, but yeah, he was a very it was an important role in the movie, but just kind of someone who wasn't a recognizable face. I suppose they spent all their money on George Clooney and Brad Pitt, didn't they? So.
Yeah, but he must have been like a good he gave a good audition to be a side character that is also equally as funny, but didn't take away from the main act.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's my fourth one. Third, and I did say at the beginning, these are not in like a proper order. These are just kind of, I suppose you could say they're in the order of that I like them, but you could probably move them around depending on what mood I'm in. But my third one is Furiosa.
A Mad Max saga.
Sorry. I didn't use its proper name. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This was another one, just like Quiet Place. When I heard it was announced, I was like, well, they're going to ruin that, aren't they?
Yeah, I think I watched it first, and then I was like, oh, you need to watch this movie.
Yeah, because you went to cinema to see it, and I was like, I don't really... I struggle to get to cinema because I have like health issues. So if I'm going to the cinema, it's got to be for something worth it. Whereas...
That's why you watch Wicked with me.
Exactly. But then I watch a lot of things on streaming, and like you buy them off Amazon and stuff like that. So once Shay was like, you know what, it's worth it, I was like, okay, Shay's not easily impressed with movies, so there's got to be something
I have a high
there.
bar.
Yeah, you do. She's one of them people who you watch a movie and say that's amazing, and she'll go out and be like, it was okay. You're like, oh, great.
It takes me a while to digest the film, so sometimes I'll watch it and then I have to think about it, and then I decide what my rating is, like my personal rating in my head. And then I'll watch someone else's, and I'm like, oh, I agree with them, and now my like rating is completely changed. So
Yeah.
It's not like a consistent viewpoint, but it's mine.
It works. So yeah, Furiosa, it was like A Quiet Place in the same way, where I was like, are they milking it? Are they going to ruin it? And there were things which I didn't like about it that I don't think they used as much practical as they did in the first Mad Max Fury Road one. I think there was a little bit more digital used.
A bit more CGI.
Yeah, a bit more CGI, which I think with some of the stuff they did, they had to, but I loved how practical the first one was. But another thing, Charlize Theron, I think she even said she wanted to be in it and then ended up not being able to be in it. Either they didn't want her or she had conflicting schedules and that. But
I didn't know that.
it was a shame. Yeah, I saw that somewhere. I can't remember where. I could be talking rubbish, but
We'll ask her after this.
Yeah, we'll go check in. But yeah, I think she would have been great in it. Not Anya Taylor Joy, is that her name?
Yeah,
She was
Anya.
great. Don't get me wrong, she is a good
Mm,
actress, but she Charlize Theron was so incredible in the first one. It was like even if half of it was her and half of it was Anya, so it was like jumping backwards and forwards would have been really cool, but it wasn't to be. So those are the things which I was a bit like. That's why it's not like top of the list. But other than that, Chris Hemsworth,
mm.
he's so good in it.
He was
He
really
made
good
me
as
laugh
Dementors.
throughout. He and also was quite intimidating and scary at times, but
Mm,
still had you kind of rooting for him. So it's really like well acted, so that you didn't completely hate the bad guy, but you also knew that he was the bad guy. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
So yeah, that was I really liked that side of it. And like I said, Anya Taylor Joy did a great job with portraying Furiosa because it was already kind of set out for her. So some could say like it was pretty easy, you just follow what she did, but she definitely added something to that role and stuff.
Yeah, and I enjoyed like how they gave just another dimension to that universe. So you learn a lot of stuff that wasn't in the first movie. Um I mean the first one where Tom Hardy was in it. I haven't seen the ones with who is it?
As Mel Gibson, yeah, I've
Yeah, I
never
haven't
seen
seen the Mel Gibson ones either.
No,
But
from what
maybe
I've
I
heard,
think
they're
we
all
should.
right, but they're not amazing like classics sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think I would like to learn more about the law, Mad Max law.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, this movie definitely showed you more about the law and what was going on.
Mm.
Not all of it, obviously. There's probably loads other stuff, but there was a lot more of like what each faction does and things like that.
It was
And
more multi-dimensional.
yeah. So that was my third one. I thought it was really good, really enjoyable.
Mm.
And my second pick is another horror, which is what I said. But
It's a
it
horror
was
streak for Zach.
I know, but it was superb. Alien Romulus. It was such a good film, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It was. Um, the story didn't feel like a phone in. The story was like its own thing. You could watch Alien Romulus without watching any other Alien, and it would be a top tier film still, which I
think I
love.
watched it. We watched it with my sister, and even she did. She likes to know what happens, in a movie, but I don't feel like I needed to explain a lot to her because it was quite it was self-explanatory, very easy to follow, kind of a story, yeah, like a very easy to follow storyline.
But at the same time, it didn't spoon feed you. There was tension, there was action, there was stuff. Like it was just a really. It showed superb like pacing. Like there wasn't a moment in the film where I was like checking my watch and that. I think it was like the pacing was perfect. Like you were always like either on the edge of your seat or you were getting something explained or like there was another action scene. So it all really fit well together. The practical and CGI worked like tremendously well, and the acting for some fairly, I'd say, unknown actors. Like, what was that
Just
guy's name?
lesser known. Like I wasn't aware of the actor that played what's his face?
Had the droid guy.
Yeah, the droid.
That might be a spoiler actually, which is so bad. David Johnson.
Yeah, maybe we should
It's
just
Johnson, but not spelled how Johnson should be spelled. He played Andy.
yeah, the character that plays Andy, really liked him.
Wow, yeah, complete performance. But also all of the side characters. Isabel Merced, I think she's Spanish or something like that, isn't she? Actress.
Isabella Merced.
Yeah, she did a really good job, and
Yeah.
you need someone who can show fear really well.
That's not
in
the main
movies.
character though. That's the
No,
that's
no. The pregnant one, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of a spoiler.
Damn it! Don't watch this if you haven't seen it. But
It's too late now.
in a movie like this, you need someone who can show like full-on fear. And Isabel Merced, and the main person, is it Kaylee Spaney?
Yeah.
I have no idea how you pronounce that last name. Spaney, who plays them. They both like you felt their like fear at this alien creature. sort of
I
thing.
think also that Navarro, played by Aileen Wu, I thought she replicated like the fear, like when you're not feeling great or you see something like you see like a really big spot on your back and you're like, what is this?
Have you had that happen to before?
Well, it kind of like the film kind of gave me like, oh, there's something wrong with you, and it's like it will escalate quite fast. Like I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, when I got bitten by a spider, and basically my leg was going into sepsis.
It went like the bit of it went black, didn't it?
Yeah, well, my whole shin went black and it was like discoloring and stuff, and I was like, oh no, it'll be fine. But like, instead of like me ignoring the issue and being like, oh yeah, it will be fine soon, it's more like I would get more horrified every day when it was getting blacker and darker and not healing.
So that it was Shay's own alien going
Yeah,
on.
it's my infection.
What we really went off on the tangent. So that was my second favorite film. Like overall, really, really great film. And we're going to move on from Blackleg to something that was a little bit more. I want to say cheerful, but kind of. It was
It's more comedy.
It was kind of. I'd say it was a comedy, but I don't know if it was classed as one. But it was the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It has Henry Cavill in. It has the Reacher guy. What's his name? Let me search this up again. Richson, who's having a bit of a boom in his career, isn't he? And Babs. Oh man, this is Olu San Mokun, I think is how you say that. I have butchered that name. Yeah, Babs. Babs. Anyway, those three were like the main three for me. There were a couple others. Alex Pettyfer, but he didn't really. I kind of forgot about him, to be honest. He was all right, but he was fine.
Oh, the guy from Stormbreaker.
What, Alex Pettyfer?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fine, but like Henry Cavill, Alan Richardson, and Babs all I feel did a lot better jobs. And actually, the lady, who was it? Izia Gonzalez. She was pretty good as well in it. But they have a lot of charisma. They have a lot of fun making this film. You could tell it was a really like interesting story and based on a true story, which I'd never heard of. So I love when I learn. And a movie wins me over when at the end they have pictures of the real people and saying what happened to them after the story.
I have to admit, I didn't watch this film. Well, I did start watching it, but I quickly fell asleep, and I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. So, I don't know much about this film other than like the first few minutes of it, really.
Yeah, Shay fell asleep pretty quick, and I did tell her as soon as she woke up, like the next day, I was like, it was a great film, you should definitely watch it. But it's also, I could tell it's not as much her film, like it's not her style, so maybe she wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did. But yeah, I thought it was really fun and enjoyable. And like, what was it in later on? Wolves. Like Wolves, it was a kind of cheer me up sort of thing. It was like a really interesting but like happy ending and things like that. So it made me feel a bit more like happier. So yeah, that's my list of my top 5. It's a bit of a random list. I feel like there's a lot which is missing from other people's. I will say that I haven't watched every movie last year, and there's a lot of big ones that I've missed. So there's gonna be a few like glaring.
Quite selective.
Yeah. So like these are the ones which I watched because I wanted to watch them and enjoyed, sort of thing. So there's a few which I have missed, and I'll probably watch them this year.
Yeah.
But I can't really add them to my favorite movies later on. So you know, I do a letterbox, so I'll update it on there. But yeah, those are my top 5, and I think there's quite a nice mixture of things as well in there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite diverse, and it's actually quite surprising how many horror films are on there instead of like a feel-good movie.
I
or
need
comedy.
more. I need more feel goods at the beginning of 2025. I don't know about you, but yeah, we're gonna jump on to having a look at Shay's top five then.
Yeah. So my top five movies of 2024. Start with five. Five is Babes. So this is a movie about two best friends, and they've kind of like grown up all their life, and they both end up. Or one is already pregnant at the start of the movie, and the other friend, she gets pregnant, and it's kind of um, going about their life and how she struggles with her pregnancy, and like how she just deals with just life and yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one. But then
I
I'm
think
saying
you have
that,
seen it.
yeah, I
You're in
like
the background.
just looked it up, and I've realised I probably have seen this one because I recognise the two actresses and the scenes that are shown. You also love the TV show.
I know. I love Ilana. She is one of my favorite actors. Because I love. Is it Broad City? She's
Broad
in.
City, yeah.
Yeah, Broad City is just unrestrained madness, and I just really enjoy watching two people go through the antics that they do.
Yeah, so I think her comedy really bleeds through onto both of them, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I I don't tend to love comedy films, but because it's so unhinged, it just really tickles my funny bone.
Yeah, it is unusual for you to have a comedy in your top five for sure. But yeah, I get it because it's not like a normal comedy. The jokes like are, I suppose you have to like that type of humor where it's a bit insane and there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, isn't it, without going into like spoiler territory as well and stuff like that. But she's just got a really unique. If you like Babes, you'll like Broad City. If you like Broad City, you'll like Babes. It's her writing is just
kind of
on
like a
display
offshoot.
there, isn't it? Yeah.
Because I feel that Babes is kind of more of a the next chapter to Broad City, although it has different characters, different relationship, different it's a different vibe. But I do feel like in Broad City, even though Alana's best friend, I can't remember who acts.
Michelle Batieu, is it Dawn?
Oh no, that's in Babes.
Oh, the other girl in
Yeah,
Broad City.
but in Broad City, there's another actor, and they have a similar relationship like in the film Babes. But I feel like in Broad City they have like more of a similar mindset, whereas in Babes, she's already like her best friend's got a established relationship, established family, and Alana's character is more like independent, free spirited.
They clash more, don't they? They clash on and disagree more, but it creates that kind of funny dynamic.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that Babes is more of a PG version of Broad City.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is why I enjoyed it. It's just something you can watch in the background. You don't have to.
It's almost like your cheer up movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a good movie. You know, like if you have like a girls' night, you have friends over, and you're like, oh, what film should I watch? That would be good, like to entertain everyone else. And I think Babes is that good film, like to have playing in the background when you have a few friends over.
Like Lego just fell over.
I know. Wants to get involved.
What was your number 4?
My number 4 was Romulus, like Zak's. I love the Alien franchise. It's my favorite horror franchise. But I feel like I've done it a little bit of an injustice rating it this low and number 4 because even though I loved the movie, I did feel a bit disappointed in the end because I just wanted to be completely frightened, but I was more fascinated because I enjoyed the technology, I enjoyed the callbacks, I enjoyed the cast. Um, yeah, I really loved all of that. But I did feel like by the end I was like, oh, I kind of wanted more.
But that's just because you like horrors more than I do. So
Mm,
you're wanting more as me being like it's a perfect level. So I guess that's the negative side of it, is that they probably dulled it down a little bit. I don't know, that like obviously not going venturing into spoilers, and we've already talked about this movie, so we won't spend too long on it. But
yeah.
like that the one of the aliens which is new to this movie is pretty intimidating and terrifying.
Yeah, but for me, like it was pretty intimidating and terrifying for like the first 2 seconds, and you're kind of like, oh, it's kind of funny at the end.
I was like, I want it gone.
I
So
enjoyed it.
so different vibes.
Yeah, I thought it was quite funny, but then obviously I like a creature feature.
Yeah, definitely. You're a fan of the kind of, oh, what's his name? Famous director who does ugly creatures.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, you're a fan of those sort
Oh,
of.
yeah, I love his movies. I love the way he makes creatures and
Did he do this one?
um no, maybe
I have a feeling he was involved
a
in this
little
one.
slightly
Old
slight input.
Guillermo, he had his fingers in this at some point.
Oh,
I think.
you know what? I think so, you know.
I don't think he was actually.
Oh, I can't see him in the cast either.
No. Oh, so it just felt so much like a Guillermo like piece, didn't it? But
Yeah, but it wasn't like Guillermo likes to do like gross, slimy.
that
He's
is
just
literally aliens, though.
he just lives on a different planet, and like I love the way he just thinks and how he expresses those like thoughts in the way media is.
I mean, we've got sidetracked again just talking about Guillermo.
I know.
I think we've talked about Romulus enough, haven't we?
All right. So my third favorite film of last year was June 2. I just really enjoyed the magnificence of it. It was just so grand, especially with the sandworms. Um, it had massive religious tones in it, which I wasn't like too crazy about. Because
I mean, that's the book, though, isn't it?
I
what
know, but
leading
it's
from.
just like another story with a savior. I know, like
Yeah, it does follow like a very very overused sort of storyline,
trope,
doesn't it?
the
Yeah, and
savior
trope.
trope.
Yeah. The savior trope is a bit tired, but I think they overcome that with the spectacle, like you say, didn't
Oh
they?
yeah, it was definitely a spectacle. I really enjoyed the art style. I love a good space movie, something that takes you out of this world. And I feel like when I watched June 2, I knew I had to watch it in IMAX. I just needed something to give me that dimension because like the movie was obviously filmed with the idea that they were going to use like massive planes of like just space, just areas where like they had to depict creatures that you're just unimaginably big,
Yeah,
that defies all physics.
yeah, and it's um one of my favorite directors does something similar. It's like the playing with scale, and one of my favorite directors is the Gareth Edwards, I want to say his name is.
What did
He did
direct?
Rogue One. He did Godzilla. He
Yeah,
did The Creator.
yeah,
What is that guy's
really,
name?
really good movies that show like just
Gareth
massive.
Edwards. There you go. So Gareth Edwards did a similar thing to what Villeneuve, I think his name is, the guy who did is like you make
I think maybe they had the same director of photography.
Maybe, yeah, but like I think it was really well, like with the sandworms, you felt like they were huge, didn't you? You didn't. It didn't just look like, oh, they're supposed to be quite big, aren't they? Because that person looks really small next to them. You could feel their size, and like all the battles and stuff, and all like the big wide scenes and like, you know, panning cameras and that. It all felt very grand and an event rather than just like a normal movie sort of thing.
Yeah, so they all had the same cinematographer. So I think that's why they had like a more so like with The Creator, Dune 2, Rogue One, the person who was involved with the person who was responsible with the cinematography was a guy called Greg Fraser, and
well, he does a good job.
And like,
get him on more movies.
Yeah, the way he just knows how to conceptualize scale and like puts that out on screen and have it relate as well. I feel like I'm rambling, but
no, but like I completely agree with what you're saying.
Like, I think it's hard to show scale in movies when you don't understand how to show it. I think like the film that you liked, Furiosa, I like the film a lot, but it didn't feel as grand as those kind of films. Like Furiosa didn't feel as grand as the original Mad Max.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with that.
It felt a bit more congested.
And I think that probably was something to do with the overuse of CGI, which we spoke about, isn't it? So, but yeah, I agree that Dune 2 was a great film. It didn't make my top 5 just because I got a bit... Dune 1 was incredible. It was definitely on my top 5 for the year that came out. But I just got a bit... it felt like a long time in between. And also, like, the first story was really interesting. The second story I felt was a bit more, like Shay said, a bit more savior, like religious undertones and all that. And it was just, it didn't have like the clear direction that the first one did. The first one was like a betrayal is going to happen, and then people have to escape, or and like big characters have to die and things like that. There was like a real like idea of what it was going to be.
I see what you mean, yeah.
But in the second one, it's like if people know the history, like the follow-on lore of Dune, or the Dune universe, shall we say, it gets weird, doesn't it?
I know, and I think that's why I started liking it again. Well, I liked the first one as well, but I just liked going into what's it called? Not the Atreides.
The Harkonnens.
Yeah, I liked seeing what the Harkonnens were all about and their world and how that was visualized. I just loved the grittiness of it.
Yeah, and even the ugly stuff looked really pretty because of like the way they shot it, like the Harkonnen area, like in very like black and white kind of monotone and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it looked really cool still.
I think it was just quite high on my list, although the story, like you said, I don't think it was as good as the first one, but I just really enjoyed the visual aspects of the film.
Yeah, it was nice to see Zendaya had more than a glance in the first
Actually,
one.
Anya Taylor-Joy was in that film as well for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was like the first one Zendaya got just to look at the camera, and that was like basically it. And then the second one, Anya Taylor-Joy got just to look at the camera, and that was basically it as well. So
she got a couple of words in as well.
Yeah, it was not a lot though, was it? And you just think they're clearly either they're clearly setting up for another big movie where they have a bigger part, or they really spent a lot of money on a really small part. So it's a weird choice there. I think Chalamet did a great job. I think Zendaya did quite a good job. I think, what's his name? Austin Butler, who played the bald guy.
Oh, yeah.
He did an amazing job. He was really intimidating. And the fact that he copied the voice of the Count, the Duke. What's his name? Skarsgård, the guy who floats.
Yeah.
He kind of copied his accent a little bit.
Oh.
I think that was a really nice touch because then you
I
kind
didn't
of
notice that. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
watched a little thing on it, and he spent ages trying to learn his accent, and that was they all got a bit creeped out because he did such a good job of it.
I think I now thinking about it, I did notice that. Well, I notice it now in hindsight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was June 2.
Yeah.
What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Wicked. This movie has the world in a chokehold, I feel, and it's got me in a chokehold as well. I've just I watched it the first time and I was just so is another film that has to do a lot with scale and the portrayal of things. And I just loved how the story was it was just so heartwarming but also quite political in a way. Like you had to really see things like things were happening under the surface and not everything was as it seemed, which I really enjoyed, like that storyline where good necessarily isn't good and wicked is not necessarily wicked, and I really enjoyed the contrast to that.
Believe the fancy word juxtaposition.
Yeah,
or juxtaposition.
juxtaposition.
Like but I did not love this movie as much as Shay did, but I don't think anyone has loved this movie as much as Shay did. I'm surprised this didn't make number 1. And I think I know what your number 1 is. And yes, I understand why that one made number 1. But Wicked, I've seen myself probably 4 times, because once I went to the cinema with Shay to watch it, and the other 3 times it's been on in my house and I can't avoid it. It's just there because Shay
he was a passive onlooker.
Just loves watching it. She got it from Prime as soon as it came out, and she's been blaring that ever since. So
One thing I'm really disappointed by, I don't have the commentary version on Prime.
Yes, that's really annoying. We tried to watch it on the smart TV, and the sing-along version and all like the commentaries and stuff like that all don't work yet.
I know.
And it's
really
such a massive film, and you're like, come on, Amazon, sort it out. But yeah,
maybe they released it in a bit of a rush. But the reason, like, just to add to the reasons why I love this film, just love like just the design, and the songs are really catchy.
You have been blaring those songs since you first saw it, so
yeah,
you've got to say that the songs are top tier, aren't they? Because I'm not a huge musical fan. There was one song which I liked. I don't like musical singing, so it's not for me. But I will like, I can understand that they're really catchy, and I find myself humming along to different ones. I like during the day, like no one mourns the wicked and stuff like that. So so I get the I get why people have loved it, but it's one of those things where it's not for me, but I can appreciate it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and also I just think it's wild because I read the book as well after the screening, and I'm just so baffled that someone read that book and they were like, let's do a musical from this book, and I'm just like, I don't have the imagination for that to like have basically this man's ramblings on page and be like, oh yeah, I can make a great song out of this. I was just so impressed.
Yeah. Every time Shay was reading, she'd turn to me and just be like, this is not what I expected from, like, compared to the movie. This is weird. So I suppose it's taken some liberties, hasn't it? It's like artistic liberties, or what you call it.
Oh, definitely, but for the better, definitely for the better from the book.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I do you want anything else to say about Wicked?
No, otherwise we would just have to make a whole episode out of this.
Yeah, you probably could just keep going on about Wicked.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe I should do like my own commentary.
Just watch the movie. Like, you can do a watch along sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll arrange for a watch along.
So what's your number 1?
My number 1 movie is The Substance. I just really loved the depiction of everything in this movie. this movie, I've been talking a lot about scale in films, and this film feels very insular. It's a very small like scope. Um, it's just sometimes how well a story is told in a few scenes, in a few places, but I just love a disgusting film.
I have not watched this. I refuse. After I heard some horror stories about people, didn't someone we know pass out?
Yeah, my friend, she passed out.
She
during
passed
the
out in the cinema watching it,
in
and
the cinema.
that would be me, 100%. So I said, you know what, it's not for me. I've heard, it's already won some awards and stuff though. Demi Moore has done pretty well from it, I think.
She won a what's it called?
Golden Globe?
Is it a Golden Globe?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. And if not nominated, so at least on the awards.
Oh no, she
scene.
definitely won something.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like it's obviously good for what it is, but it's gore horror, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely gore, definitely a lot of horror. Just
Bit psychological, maybe.
definitely psychological. I'll tell you just a short little description of the film. So it's basically about this. She's like this fitness actress, and she's kind of come out of her prime, and like the media industry is like got to move on to new and better things. And so to prevent herself from being pushed out of this industry, she makes a decision where she tries to get back into the industry and improve herself in some certain means.
Interesting. So that's enough that I can hear where I don't hear anything gross, so I'm happy. But yeah, I know kind of the basics. And she goes through some sort of like procedure or something, doesn't she? And then she is two people. Is that how it works?
Oh, that might be a spoiler.
Uh-oh. Spoiler woiler.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not a spoiler, seeing as there's two actresses who play the same person.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
What were people expecting when they see two people who play the same person?
I know, yeah. But like, is it like kind of shown in the trailer?
I don't know.
Mm.
If you care about the substance and haven't seen it yet, then I would probably not be listening to us talk about it because we're very mad at giving away spoilers. Apparently, I think we've put a warning right at the beginning that says we will probably accidentally spoil stuff. Yeah, exactly. but yeah, it sounds like a really interesting concept. It also sounds like it was fairly cheap to make potentially.
They were on a they were I watched the special features the other day, and the director Coralie Faguet.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. She's French, and she said that she was on a limited budget, and she filmed it all in France as well, although the film is set in LA.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I just loved the way she used like physical elements in the film. So she could have easily used AI or CGI. But a lot of the imagery that she made was from like physical implements. Like she put these lights on a thing that rotates, and then she would like shove the camera in, and she used a lot of helmet cams to get some visual, some different visuals. Ooh.
Oh, you poked a mic. So like really practical then, the way that she did.
But a lot of practical stuff, and I think that added to how visceral and gross it was.
Oh, lovely.
Because it was just so fascinating, because it did feel real and you could feel it on you. You could no, not on you, but you can imagine. It was like you didn't have to use your imagination because it looked so real.
There you go. And that's why our friend passed out, and I probably would pass out watching it. But
Yeah.
that's kind of your vibe, isn't it, Shay?
I know, I do love a bit of a gross film.
There you go. I think that's probably enough for our movies of 2024. Like, let us know in the comments and stuff if there's comments. I mean, if this is the podcast, I think there's comments. I don't know. We're very new at this, but let us know if you have a top 5 of 2024 and if any of our movies
just
make
think about your top 5.
Yes, please. That would be fun. And now we're gonna move on
Send
to.
it to us telepathically.
Oh, we're still working on that. Maybe eventually we'll be able to use that kind of feature where you just. But then imagine if more than one person, and then in the middle of the night you just get the message, my top 5.
I know, that'd be quite cool though.
Oh, here we go.
It'd be like Twitter, but for the brain.
Anyway, we're going to
X.
move on from movies and we're going to go on to TV now. So we're going to be talking about our top 5 of 2024 for TV shows that we watch.
Right. So for my top 5 TV shows, starting from 5, I have the TV show Fallout. Where do I start with this show? This show was so good and it was so fun. It did things like it applied the quirks of the video game very well in the TV show, I think, because we've always had like such disappointing transfers of media when it comes to games to like films and TV, like not mentioning Borderlands, but mentioning Borderlands. I haven't seen it because I just don't want to burn my eyes in that way.
Yeah, I've heard Borderlands is pretty bad. Yeah, I really enjoyed Fallout as well. It didn't quite make my list. There's other stuff which I enjoyed a bit more, but like you say, we've had bad TV movie adaptations for games for a while now, but this one did a really good job. I think the acting was really and the writing for the characters was really good. Like the person who plays the main character, is it Emma Purnell?
I'm looking at it now. What is
Can't remember what her name is. I think it's Purnell.
Yeah, Ella Purnell.
Ella, there you go. But she was really good.
It's a big year for her.
Because she was in Sweet Pea.
Sweet Pea,
And this.
Yellow Jackets. She's also been in a few films as well, I think.
She's showing her acting chops in all as well. I think she does a really good job. And all of the side people. I mean, Walter Goggins for me is the standout. As the ghoul, he was incredible. I think he really was the icing on the cake for the show, because without him, you don't have that kind of lovable rogue sort of thing, and I think he added that kind of extra flavor to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, just a really fun, great series. Looking forward to another one. I think that they said that there's another one coming, and but like with these shows, they take so long to make, don't they? That's the problem.
Especially when you're looking forward to games and it's not like a consistent like 1 year after another, like movie, game, TV show, game, something like that.
Yeah, like Fallout, we haven't had
It's a
anything.
massive gap.
Because I didn't really enjoy Fallout 76, the online one. But
which one was it that I enjoyed?
We both played Fallout 4, didn't we?
Fallout 4
when it came
was
out, we
elite.
pre-ordered it, and that was close to when we first got married, I think.
Maybe.
I think it was like first or second year when we got married, so it was like a game that we both went through.
Yeah, and also, was it the mobile phone game?
Fallout
that
Shelter. I still play
Fallout
that sometimes.
Shelter is so good.
I crack that out every now and then still. I love that game. It's really fun. They brought out another one related to Skyrim, but it wasn't as good. This year, like 2024.
What's it? The castles?
Yeah, it was like castles or something. I didn't like it as much. They didn't keep the same sort of mechanics as the Shelter one. They made it more of like a story thing. I liked just being able to just check them up, make sure that they're all doing their thing, making food and water and stuff.
Yeah. What was the other one? There was before
Fallout 4.
No, before. Was it Fallout Shelter where like you can break the game?
Oh, you broke the game when it first came out. Yeah, you kept changing the date in your phone,
Yeah,
didn't
there
you?
was like a hack where you could change the date and you
I
could get lots of lunch boxes.
I played it purist. I didn't mess around that way. But yeah, no, I think that the TV show, back on track. I think the TV show kept very true to the games and kind of like the lore and stuff. I'm looking forward to a bit more because they only saw one vault, and I think that they're looking at bringing in more vaults in the next season or something like that.
Yeah, and also I think it did it justice from our kind of viewpoint because we liked playing the game and we knew what was coming up in a certain way. Because we knew what the vaults were involved in, like that there was going to be a nuclear explosion wiping out the earth.
Spoiler.
But so even though it had those elements still, and stayed faithful to those elements, it was still entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I like it wasn't predictable, was it? Even though it stayed true to stuff which we already knew about, it didn't feel boring or it didn't feel like it was just like, let's just tell you this stuff and then get over it. So we need to exposition all the way. It did it in a really creative and interesting way. So yeah, I think it was definitely a highlight. What was your number 4?
My number 4 is another TV show featuring Ella Purnell, and that is Sweet Pea. Although I didn't like that you were rooting for the bad guy, you were still kind of rooting for the bad guy. And I feel like I do enjoy having the norms of a TV show, like of a main character kind of tipped on its head. And the fact that this sweet little girl is not actually as sweet. She kind of gets pushed to her limits and then doesn't turn out as sweet as she seems to be.
Yeah, I found it really quite affecting the way that like the way it was filmed and the way the characters were in that. It felt very real. Like everything felt very like it's like just people chilling out at the pub, that sort of thing, for the weekend or like, you know, in the evening after work and stuff. And like a lot of it, so when it did actually turn a bit more insane, because like it's a bit of a murder, not murder mystery, but a bit of a murder like.
It's described on IMDb as a dark comedy.
A dark comedy, there you go, with a bit of like a thriller aspect, I guess, like slightly where you kind of like, is she gonna get caught and stuff? But like when it turned and she did kill people,
it really turned.
It really turned, and it was like really like not jarring, but like it definitely affected me, and in a good way, because like the acting was so good, and the writing and everything, it made me feel like, oh wow, flipping heck, this is intense, which is not what I really look for in a TV show. So which is why it wasn't on my list, because I was like, oh flip, and you'd finish watching it, I'd be like, I need to watch something happy after that to kind of cleanse my palate before I like settle down to sleep or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that, because it, like, now thinking about it, it did give like a true crime drama kind of vibe, although it's purely fiction. I really want to read the book as well. I don't know.
Oh, is it a book, is it?
Yeah, it's that adaptation of a book. And the author's got like a whole series of them.
Around the same character?
Yeah, so it's the same character.
Do you know what's crazy? I thought it was based on some sort of true story.
You know what? It probably is. I think...
1 minute. No. So it's not based on a true story?
It's just a book.
It's just the books. So actually, I did feel a little bit like you say, true crime sort of stuff, where it's like retelling of something that actually happened. So that was, I think it was pretty well done. But also we have so many of these shows where it's like real crimes that happened. I suppose they just had to kind of use that as inspiration, didn't they?
Yeah, I watched the Menendez brothers recently, and it had like a similar like.
Oh, that was even worse
vibe.
than this.
It was definitely worse,
but it was intense, wasn't it?
It did feel like it was filmed and the story is told in a similar way.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah. Cool. So what's that's your fourth one. What's your third
Yeah.
one?
My third one is Silo. Um, I just really loved the TV show. I don't know when it came out first. Was it last year?
Um, That's a good question. I think so. Yeah, it came out either last year or year before, like
Yeah.
2023, 2024. Yeah, it
Last
came
year.
out.
I just got
No, it would
sucked.
have been 2023 because the second season came out last year, or started coming out.
2023 came out.
Yeah, because it
Yeah.
came out at the end of 2024, didn't it?
I really enjoyed it. And then when I heard that season 2 was coming out, my sister got obsessed with it. And I was like, wow, if she is crazy about it, then I must definitely watch it. Um, but I also prevented myself from watching it because I wanted to understand the story a bit deeper. I wanted to learn more about the law and the ins and outs of um, the original writings of basically of the TV show. So I decided I'm gonna read the book first, the first book anyway, and then I'll start watching the TV show. And I really enjoyed the book, and I really enjoyed how faithful the series is to the book, and the parts where it didn't go along with the book word for word. It went in a direction that I found interesting. I really enjoyed that.
I'm not that quick at reading books, so I was like, you go for it. I usually listen to books. I do audio books. I'm slow at reading, man. But yeah, I think that even my mum hasn't she's read it as well.
Yeah.
And we clued her in to watch the series as well, and she said how good it was and how close to the books it was as well, but not in a way that if you've read the books, everything is just kind of laid out for you. You already know what's going on. It's actually well done, so that if you've read the books, you still find yourself kind of thinking, where's this going to go? So I think that's a very good way of doing an adaptation. So if you know the content before from the book, it doesn't like give it away for you.
Yeah. Because sometimes TV adaptations they will be like, oh, let's go in a different direction and see how this pans out. Because you have that opportunity to tell a story for a second time. But I liked the fact that the author he had direct not control, but like he had like a direct input into the TV show. So I think that's what also helped retell this like good story, but in a TV format.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So
Number 2.
what's your number 2?
Rings of Power. I
Lord
love
of the Rings.
I love a good fantasy TV show. And I feel like Rings of Power just ticks all the boxes when it comes to adventure, action, a whole different universe to explore, strong female characters, strong characters overall. You come to the point, like the season that recently came out, you come to the point where you're aware of who the baddie is. When season 1, you're like, she was basically going through the trenches looking for the bad person, and then the plot twist happens and we know who the bad person is now, and everyone dealing with that. And it's not a satisfying TV show at all, which I like. It's a very frustrating TV show to watch, but I think that's part of why it's so entertaining.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think it's also because they're trying to keep it, I don't know all the back stuff, but I think they're trying to keep it going for like 5 seasons or something like that. That's where I read online that they're going to try and make it a 5-season thing, and I think a lot of the writings about stuff that happens over this time is very unsatisfying. I think that there's a lot of that stuff where it's like the dwarfs did something stupid, the elves did something stupid, the humans did something stupid. They all fell into like Sauron's hands because they were all being idiots, basically.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of that.
I don't think it's also like a lot of it isn't them being stupid. It's like they have to deal with their own problems and they can't always communicate with each other straight away. And so a lot of offense happens.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's
unintentional offense.
from like from the outside. If you're just looking at it from like a gloss over, it's they're all just being stupid. But yeah, the way that this show does it is really well because you realise that actually, even though they, from the point of view of say like the dwarfs and the dwarfs had so much going on in this season, and they then the elves were like, we need you, and they were like, well, 1 minute, and they did
Mm.
eventually help at some point, but there was this whole like I don't. Season 3 is going to be interesting. Is it season 2 that came out last year? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So season 3 is going to be interesting to see how they resolve all of those problems that come from this season,
Yeah.
where like they weren't able to help each other in time and things like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that there was a lot of negative stuff around diversity. I think the diversity in it is great, and there's a lot of people who are like Tolkien nerds and lore experts who are like, this tiny little thing isn't great. If you watch it as just a show and then try and enjoy it as an entertainment piece and don't get too hung up on all of the lore things, it's a fun and really entertaining show to watch, I think.
Yeah, from a point of view of someone that does not know Lord of the Rings lore at all, I have watched the movies. I kind of enjoy them because they are fun and good stories, but I just don't enjoy the lack of diversity in them. You could argue, oh, the orcs are a different ethnicity, but it doesn't sit with me well when the foreign like ethnicity or like the people of color are the bad people. So it just doesn't sit well with me watching those films. But I think that's why I'm enjoying Rings of Power so much, because they've kind of thought better and be like, well, it's a fantasy show, so you might as well just incorporate all
Yeah, it makes
all
sense
races,
too, doesn't
genders.
it? So I know there's loads of stuff all around that, and we could probably talk about it a little bit more. But like, I think that it's just one of those things where it hasn't affected our enjoyment of the show,
No.
and it shouldn't really affect your enjoyment of the show. If you're hung up on stuff like that, it just feels really weird, and like you can appreciate things in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's not get hung up on all that sort of stuff. What was your number one?
My number one all-time favorite of last year was Arcane, which, funny enough, is my third Ella Purnell TV show of this top
She
5.
smashed it for Shay, hasn't she?
I know, she's dominated it. Arcane, what can I say? It's just like all the emotions. I have all the emotions for this TV show. I would watch this, like, I can't wait to watch this again, basically from the beginning to the end again, because I know that there's so much detail and so much careful thought into this TV show, and it's not even that long, and the episodes aren't even that long, but I just feel like when I watched that TV show, I am there with them, all the characters, storyline, the ups and downs. Like, the way it's written, I just feel so caught up in it all.
Yeah, definitely. It's really well written, isn't it? It's on my list as well, because it's like, it was, like you say, it's so emotionally strong. Like the emotional beats that they hit with animation and with a video game, original is based off a video game.
Yeah, I've actually not played a video game.
It's probably for the best. I don't think League of Legends has got the greatest reputation, but I think that like the ability to make such an emotional and powerful story that covers so much kind of messages, because it, like, you know, there's loads of stuff in there that you can take out into like real life aspects, even though it's like made really extreme and like made into this fantasy world. There are like real world like stuff in there that you can take out of it, and I think it's just a really beautiful show. I think the animation is insanely good.
Yeah.
Like, the animation is so beautiful. The voice acting is incredible. the music, whoever curated, because it was a lot of different artists, but whoever curated that music for season 1 and for season 2 deserves a raise, because like the music makes that show for me. Like, if you've got an emotional moment, there's usually an amazing song to go with it, isn't there?
Yeah, I just feel like with this TV show, especially the second season, they got all the right people in the right timeline to just make a perfect piece of art.
Yeah, full stop. It's so good. But yeah, I think it's probably one of the best this year. But also one of the best in a very long time of animation. Like, it should be held up as one of the greats. And they've said that they're going to be making not more from Arcane, but more from the world of League of Legends.
Yeah, so I'm definitely, I think, what's it called? Noxus?
Yeah, I don't know if that's part of the game or part of the actual show that they're going to be making. Because there's like different messages online. I looked it up, and some people were saying it's an update to the game. Some people were saying it was the next show.
Yeah,
whatever happens, I'm going to be watching it. And so are you, aren't you, Jane?
Definitely. I do kind of think I want to try and play the game, because I kind of like a monotonous game.
Well, maybe that's one of the things you could try this year. Try League of Legends. I've heard it's quite toxic, so you might give up quite soon. But
no.
If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they get another game out of this, some sort of Arcane specific game. I would play it.
I'm definitely looking forward to reading the Ambessa book as well. Yeah, I don't know if that's come out. I've seen a lot of TikTokers, booktokers, have access to that book, and they've been reading it and enjoying it. So I can't wait until that comes out in the mainstream so I can buy it.
Yeah, just add it to the long list of books that you want to read.
Oh, definitely.
We'll talk more about books later. But that's your list, is it?
Yeah, so that is my top 5. Fallout, Sweet Pea, Silo, Rings of Power, and Arcane.
Awesome. Wow. Should we have a look at mine now?
Yeah.
So my top 5, actually 2 of my top 5 we've already talked about, so we won't talk about them too much. But number 5 for me was Rings of Power. Everything that we said is exactly the same, so not much more to add. It's just I love Lord of the Rings. I watch the extended edition trilogies like at least once or twice a year, and then I'll be watching the extended edition trilogy of The Hobbit when straight after I've watched the extended Lord of the Rings.
Dedicated fan.
There's something about them. I just love them, so I do watch them like once or twice a year, and I don't know the full lore and background about stuff, which is probably why the Rings of Power stuff, which doesn't add up, doesn't bother me that much. I just enjoy the fantasy story, which is just fun with like combat and things like that. But yeah, that's my number 5. I think we've said enough about Rings of Power before. So my number 4 is Shrinking, which is an Apple TV show. It's got Jason Segel as a psychologist who lost his wife, and it's all about him dealing with how to look after his kid, who's like a grown-up teenager, and also just navigate life as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So,
also Harrison Ford as a therapist.
Harrison Ford absolutely kills it.
I want him to be my therapist.
Yes.
No, actually, I don't know. He seems quite scary.
He's a bit too grumpy, yeah. But yeah, this is heartwarming, funny, and emotional, all when it needs to be. It finds the tone so well. It makes you you find yourself smiling while you're watching it, which is always a good sign for a show like that.
Yeah,
you find yourself just
I find myself crying just the whole episode, and then just I'm happy as well, but I'm also sad because they just hit every emotion quite well.
Yeah.
And evenly as well. So I think it was a mistake watching the episodes back to back, because my emotional my emotional I don't know how to describe it, my emotional threshold.
Yeah, I think that with Arcane we talked about how well they hit emotional moments, but there was only 1 or 2 really powerful emotional moments where Shay was like, one, she like broke down in tears, but like it was like a
just
proper
like the one moment, and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
quite strong.
But with Shrinking, I think the thing is it's really grounded. So
yeah, you can relate to
have
every character.
yeah, and if you've ever experienced loss, if you've ever experienced like not being understood, if you've never ever experienced depression, anxiety, or things like that, all those things are covered in such a relatable way that it can really hit you without you realizing it until it's too late. And yeah, watching it like episode after episode, you like for me, I wasn't hit as hard, but there were a couple of times where I was just like, oh. So yeah, it's one of those shows which is great. It's a really good watch.
But prepare the tissues.
Prepare the tissues. Prepare to be a bit weepy, but also prepare some really good laughs and just a really nice. It's like the more you learn the characters, the more you get to root for them and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. My number 3 is a bit of a cheat because it's 2, but it's kind of under the same banner.
Maybe we can just name it as an honourable mention.
Well, no, number 3 is Clarkson's Farm season 3, but also the Grand Tour finale. So, Grand Tour finale was an event. It was something which really, like, again, it was like you got emotional about it. Do you know what I mean? You were like, oh my goodness, this thing which has been going on. Like, I personally been watching Top Gear since I was like probably 10. So something that's been going on for like years and years in my life, like it's over, and he's going on to do his own stuff. And you could tell by near the end, like last year's special and stuff, they were getting old. They were like, you could thought there's probably not much more of this that they can do, like physically, but it's just a really fun and like it just makes you laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like there's not many like the ending was quite emotional, but it's not really that emotional throughout. You just get good laughs and you get a
good, and
really,
I
really
think
good
it's
entertainment.
quite educational as well.
Yeah, well, with the Clarkson's Farm, like we've fallen in love with that, haven't we? Because it's just such a fun. I think it feeds into the fantasy of, if I had money and I could buy land, what would I just mess around and do? Would I like make a farm? Would I? And I think that there's that very much. He has no idea what he's doing, and it's fun to see him figure it out because it's almost you could put yourself in that role.
Yeah.
But yeah, like both of those are like heartwarming, feel good, like occasionally emotional, but just like and a lot of people, Jeremy Clarkson is a love or hate sort of person, and I can kind of understand why people don't like him that much. But at the same time,
he has a strong personality.
Yeah, and he has a really good way of presenting things, especially with Clarkson Farm, of showing how like the farmers are struggling with stuff and that. It's actually really educational as well. Like you realise actually it's a hard life as a farmer at the moment, especially with all the things that are changing. And it makes you more aware and more like, oh, do you know what? Maybe I will go and support like a local farm or shop or something like that. And I like that side of it as well, where he's being very like, you know, it doesn't affect me as much because look at, I've got Amazon money coming in, but these guys just have their farm, you know?
Yeah, it opened my eyes definitely to a different demographic that is so vital to English culture. And then for it to be ignored in a certain way because you had like the protests and stuff like that, and it seems that people don't really care about the people that help us help feed the country. But
yeah. So I thought that was that's another side of it, which I think is just a nice kind of an interesting kind of way of being more informed. I mean, it's a very biased way of being more informed.
Yeah.
But it did like kind of be like every now and then me and Shay would look at each other while we're watching it, and be like, "Damn, I didn't even realise that." Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's my number 3. A little bit of a cheat because it's 2, but we'll count that as just 1. My number 2.
It's our podcast. It's our rules.
Yeah, exactly. I can make the rules. Is my number 2 is Only Murders in the Building season 3. Now, Shay does not watch this. She does not enjoy it.
So you're gonna have to like catch me up on why you enjoy this so much.
Selena Gomez, it's Steve Martin, and it's Martin Short, and those 3 like solve a murder in their first season, and make a podcast out of it, and then they solve another murder in season 2 and make a podcast out of it. And guess what?
We're now making a podcast out of them.
Oh no, but there's in season 3 they solve a murder in their podcast as well. So it's very formulaic, but I love the chemistry between the three. Selena Gomez, am I getting it right? Steve Martin, isn't it?
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not getting his first name wrong, am I? I don't know, for some reason it just sounds wrong all of a sudden.
What's the other guy's name?
Martin Short.
Oh, that's it.
It is Steve Martin. I don't know why. In my head, it just all of a sudden sounded wrong. But yeah, he those two are obviously, they've been at it for years. They're kings of comedy.
Yeah.
And I think they work really well. But Selena Gomez works really well in that like group as well. And every season they bring in more celebrities, and it doesn't feel really forced. It feels like kind of a funny way to introduce more, as they get more popular, more kind of talent. Do you know what I mean? It's really funny. It's feel good. This one isn't one that I got overly emotional at. So this is just one that I got put on when I wanted to have a good laugh and feel good. So this is not much more really to say that other than it's a really fun, funny show.
I think from my limited from my limited viewing of this show, I would describe it best as like a cozy murder mystery.
Spot on. That is, yeah, like you haven't even watched it, you know. Cozy murder mystery is exactly what it is. So if you enjoy cozy murder mystery with some top tier talent in it, with Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez, it's definitely worth checking out. And there's 3 seasons on Disney Plus now, so there's plenty to binge. So yeah, and then my first one, we probably shouldn't spend too long talking about it because it is Arcane. So we've chatted a lot about it. It is amazing, beautiful art, beautiful music, and amazing like scenes, like voice acting, perfect, everything just top. And I'm sad that they're only making they're not making another one after the second season.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, you don't want to force something until it's overused, and they're going to make more, but just of a different story. I feel like that's a really good call, because you can get, like, apparently there's a lot in that game. You can get a lot of that, get a lot of different stories, a different like kind of vibe to the art. I think so. I understand. I'm sad that we're not going to see more of the characters that we saw in Arcane, or maybe we are. Who knows? But yeah, it's one of those things where if it's just those 2 seasons, it's perfect, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you definitely caught on to this show a lot earlier than I did, and you were recommending the show to me, and you were like, Cheyenne, you have to watch this, and I was like, no, I don't know if it's going to be my vibe. And then when I started watching it, I was like, Zak, why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Why didn't you not sit me down, open my eyes, and was like, you have to sit here and watch this? Yeah, so I'm really glad that sometimes you have to just listen to the advice of other people and watch the show they're recommending.
You have to watch the films or TV shows that are recommended. Sometimes it's really awkward though when you don't like the show or film and you're watching it with the person and they're just like looking at you expectingly, but that's fine. But yeah, that was our top TV shows of 2024. We'll probably do I think we're probably going to do like what we're looking forward to next podcast that we do.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to like be excited for the things that are coming up this year.
Yeah, because there's a fair few that I'm looking forward to. I know there's a fair few you're looking forward to. So
yeah,
we'll bring that back next week to talk about shows that we're really looking forward to coming up. But next we're going to talk about books that we're reading, because Shay is a proper bookie.
Oh yeah,
bookie? I don't know if that's the right book reader.
From what I've learned from TikTok, is a bookish person.
Oh, she's a bookish person.
Yeah.
I find reading a bit harder, but I do love audiobooks. I do love a good audiobook. So I do read, if you count that as reading. So we're going to talk about books next.
So the books that I've been obsessed about recently is I've recently started reading Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series. I think it's Era 1. So that is The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and I'm currently reading now The Hero of Ages. I just think it's just a fun adventure and really good concept of like magical powers, where you can control like metals, by eating the metal, and then you burn it up in your body, and then you can have different powers, determining like from whichever metal you burn inside your body.
Yeah, I've not read these before, and Shay has told me about them. It does sound cool. I probably will read them this year at some point. The problem is I'm, like I said, really slow reader.
Maybe you can try the audiobook.
Yeah, I probably might listen to them actually. That might be a better shout. But they're so big, aren't they? The books
They're
are like
fat books,
chunky books. So it's a little bit intimidating, especially for somebody who doesn't read loads. You look at it and you think, well, that will take me years.
But I feel like it's such like credit to how good Brandon Sanderson is as a writer, because even though they're like massive chunky books, it's really easy to just devour them and finish them really quickly, because you're always, when you finish a chapter, you're like, okay, well, I need to find out what happens now.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything about that because I haven't read them. But yeah, I get what you mean. He's obviously a very good writer because he's really popular at the moment, isn't he?
Oh yeah, super trending.
Super like popular. But he's also got multiple trilogies of books, hasn't he? Like,
oh yeah, I think he's got like upwards to I think over 20 books now.
Which is just insane. Like he puts them out in sort of Stephen King levels, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He just keeps putting books out like nobody's business. But yeah, like they obviously must be good. And I do love the sound of the kind of concept of the kind of burning metals in order to be able to use like abilities and stuff like that. It sounds like a really interesting idea that's different to kind of like the normal sort of fantasy realm, just using spells and things like that. It's
yeah, because I feel like sometimes when a show uses magic, or like any kind of like a book or a TV show or film uses magic, they're like, okay, so the power just exists. It's nothing like it's nothing to explain where that power comes from.
Yeah, and I like I like when things are explained and stuff. I like it doesn't
Logical.
always have to be like, there's a lot of stuff which I like where the stuff isn't explained. Do you know what I mean? But when it is explained and you're like, oh, that actually makes loads of sense and that's a really cool idea, it just kind of makes it a bit more real in your head, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, I can definitely like, obviously I won't go out and shave a bit of metal filings and eat it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something like, I've seen metal before. I know what metal shavings are like, and I can really imagine it's like a really good idea, because you can properly imagine, oh yeah, because if I use this metal, then I can do this power. Is just really creative, I think, and really like well thought out.
Yeah, cool. So you're smashing through them. You've read them really quickly.
I know. I think I read the first one in a week, the second one in 9 days. This third one is taking a little bit of time because it's just so much. It's just, I'm just full. My head is just full of this story right now.
There's a bit of reader's fatigue going on, isn't
I think there is, yeah, because I remember, I think when I finished the last, my last book from his, which is the second one in the series, the end came and I was like 200 pages from the end, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to read all of this because there's so much happening.
It's one of those ones which you can't put down. I can tell because whenever I try and talk to Shay when she's reading,
I'm like, stop bothering me.
Yeah, and there's just no response. And she has tuned me out so that she can't hear me. So that's the Brandon Sanderson books, which I'm sure we'll talk about more in the coming weeks or months, because you're going to be reading a lot of them, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm dedicating this year to catching up on the Brandon Sanderson universe, which is, I think it's called the Cosmere.
Oh,
Yeah.
fancy name.
Yeah. But I think that has to do with the books that I'm reading currently. I think there will be there's like another 5-book series as well that I want to get into. And those books are mega. They're like at least 1,000 pages.
So we're gonna have to have the Brandison Sard. 1 minute, I messed that up. The BS update. We're gonna have to have an update, the Sanderson update or something like that. BS update sounds a bit.
Yeah, I think like maybe if you listen to the audiobooks and then you catch up.
Oh, I won't catch
then
up
you have
with you.
opinions.
That pace that she's reading at. There's no way I'll be able to keep up with that. But yeah. What is there anything else you've been reading?
Yeah, I've been reading a little bit more of a depressing book to kind of even out the tones in my head. I've read 83 Days, A Slow Death, which is basically all about how they treated a victim from an accident at a Japanese radiation plant. And they documented the whole I wouldn't say, like, you normally would say recovery, but
Treatment?
because treatment, the whole treatment that they gave to Mr. Oshii since he got exposed to radiation. And it's kind of a sad sort of, it's really sad story actually, because obviously he doesn't survive, and it kind of goes through all the symptoms he contracts and how they go about treating that, and how the doctors and nurses, they just worked round the clock treating this person. And it's heartwarming because they genuinely did try everything, but they didn't want it to be a losing battle, which I think helped them to last so long with the treatment. But if you put yourself in Mr. Ochi's position, you're like, oh, would you have wanted to last that long with such treatment? Because in the end, I think I wouldn't be able to bear with the pain and not being able to speak. And
yeah, that's a deep question right there, Shane.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it did.
Was it around about the time where they didn't really know much about radiation? Is that why this book was written?
Yeah, so it was. So like there was little not enough understanding about what radiation does to people's bodies, and also they called it criticality incidents, and how bad they would be. They obviously understood that radiation and the impacts of it because it was after Hiroshima.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was around that time. But
obviously because they were using the nuclear energy to power the wherever they were. I can't remember the place. So I think they were a little bit more like, maybe this isn't as bad as the bombs.
Yeah, and it also sounds like they had, because you were talking about it to me, sounds like they had like a really rubbish way of doing it. That they had like a bucket rather than like a automated system, so the person had to pour radioactive material from a bucket into a machine.
I think from like everyone's point of view, we always try to find an easier solution to doing something that can be quite monotonous. It's just unfortunate that ended up with 2 people dying, and the whole area getting irradiated quite badly. So it made me think like really deeply, like everything I do when it comes to my personal life and work, I need to just make sure I do it properly, because you don't know what the consequences can be sometimes.
Yeah, well, hopefully not radiation leaks and spills and stuff. But yeah, okay, it's something you can take away from the book.
Yeah,
I think that's quite a depressing one, but you love like that kind of real life,
a sad book,
like sad, but also like being like a telling of what happened in situations and stuff like that, or like obviously like Chernobyl and things like that. When radiation is especially one which you enjoy as well for some reason.
I know, because I read the Radium Girls, and that was a really good story. Well, not story, but like telling of what happened and why it was so bad and
Kind
who
of like
got affected.
a morbid curiosity, don't you?
Yeah, like I have been told off for having a morbid curiosity about real life events, because normally you like the wartime movies, the brotherly bonding of people. You like the heartwarming side of warfare.
I mean, I don't think there's a heartwarming side.
But like when
I
people
think,
come together.
yeah, I think there's more of a like I don't even think I'd say positive outlook, but if you look at a lot of the kind of movies and TV shows like Band of Brothers and stuff like that, like there is a kind of a yeah, I don't know how you describe it, but there's more of a whitewashing of like we don't look at the bad stuff too much, but we focus on, hey, we're all part of a big group that's like getting through this together and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Shay loves to look at
I'm like, give me the gangrene.
yeah, the nitty gritty. So
give me
but
the
yeah,
sepsis.
there's two very different books there, but or books, types of books, book series, whatever. But yeah, so that's what you've been reading this month.
Yeah, what have you been reading?
So I don't read as much of the same stuff as Shay. So what I've been reading is a book called The Rest is History, History's Most Curious Questions Answered, which is by a couple of guys who do a podcast. I think it's called The Rest is History. It's a very popular one. Probably people have heard that. But it's their content turned into a readable form sort of thing. And just having a load of I really like reading about history, especially like kind of medieval times and stuff like that, and but on a more kind of, it's like a couple of my favorite books are like the David Mitchell Unruly and the Mythos and series of books by Stephen Fry. So kind of like a really fun and interesting way of learning about things that were told in the past and things like that, because Mythos is obviously based on myths and stuff, and David Mitchell was talking about the history of kings throughout England, but in a very sarcastic, funny and fun way sort of thing. I think we both use fun way too much in this, but it's just we like the word fun. Okay.
We enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. So that I've been reading that. It's been really good. It's a nice also kind of chill out read. If you're just reading for like half hour, 45 minutes, it's nice just to kind of not zone out to, but just kind of read a little bit. You don't have, there's not massive chapters. There's only like, it's like quite short like segments of reading that you can do, so you don't think you have to sit there like with Shay's Brandon Sanderson for like an hour or two trying to get through chapters and chapters. It's just like you can have like a nice little read about something, and you can like, and it's also like different things, like loads of different bits. Like I learned about the pigeons in history, like what they were used for all the way back to like proper like Roman times and stuff, and ancient Greeks up until like World War One and Two.
Yeah,
and
from what I've gathered, it's like the types of stories that doesn't make you want to stare at a wall for a few minutes.
yeah.
It's just like, I can go back to sleep
A lot more
now.
cheerful, a lot more interesting and stuff like that, and less bleak, shall we say. But yeah, so that's what I've been reading, and the thing that we've both been kind of reading, if you count it, is we listened to the audiobook of Project Hail Mary.
Such a good
audiobook. Weir.
Yeah, Andy
Weir. Not David. Andy Weir. I knew it was Weir. The audiobook is really well done. Like it's probably one of the best audiobooks I've listened to, like in terms of the guy who reads it, the acting ? Is it acting?
Yeah, voice acting.
Yeah, the voice acting, the pacing, the tone in which that they read it, like everything just worked really. Like it was engaging, and every time we put it on, we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, especially when it came towards the end, it was harder to stop listening to it. Yeah, it had all the emotions as well. I was quite teary at the end.
Yeah.
Or maybe not like just before the end.
Yeah, like like midway towards the end.
There's a bit where I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was, and like we're obviously trying not to give any spoilers away, but there is a movie planned?
Yeah,
I
coming
think,
out next year. So I'm really excited to see it actually, because I think they hired Ryan Gosling as the main character.
which
As
I can see
I can
from
see it.
the character in the book. I
Mm.
could imagine Ryan Gosling playing that really
Yeah,
well.
because I've already seen like him act in Barbie and Fall Guy, and I can imagine how he would play this character, this main character called I only remember his surname, but it's like Grace.
Yeah, I think that's what he goes by through the whole thing, though, isn't it? Grace. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking for a science fiction kind of audiobook to listen to, that is way up on my list. It's
I
probably one of the
know.
best science fiction audiobooks I've ever listened to.
I
But it's also
know.
like really
Yeah.
funny and like just a really good story. If you're not into science fiction, I don't think it's. I think there is bits where he goes into very science fiction-y talk and stuff, but for a lot of it, it's also by the same guy wrote The Martian, didn't he?
Yeah, that was also quite a like a upbeat sci-fi, I would say.
He's definitely got a way of writing and a way of writing dialogue and things like that. You could tell from The Martian and Project Hail Mary, they both had a very similar tone in
Yeah.
how he would say things and stuff like that, which isn't a bad thing. I think he writes very good, like kind of.
Oh yeah, I think the whole book was written quite well, and then also how it was delivered in the audio format. I think that complemented the book perfectly.
Yeah. So that was what I've been reading, or we've been reading, and really loved that book. So we'll come back next time and give you an update on if we're reading anything else, if anything
I think
has
I'll
popped up.
definitely try and read The Martian this year.
So Shay's got books upon books planned, haven't you, to read? I don't
Yeah.
have as many, so I need to try and build up a bit of a backlog of books that I want to read rather than just like kind of picking up the odd one, which I think because I think I need to get a few which I like the look of ready. That will make me more motivated to read, I think.
Yeah, I've set my Storygraph goal to 40 this year, so I'm
40
like a little
books,
bit
damn.
intimidated, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if I can reach that goal this year, and maybe even surpass it because if I end up finishing all of Brandon Sanderson books, but it might be a bit slower to achieve that goal because
They're so long, aren't
they're
they?
so big.
I don't really have a goal, but maybe like one a month would be doable for me, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. I set a goal to read at least one book a month, and I managed to surpass that. And so I thought, let me just stretch myself out a bit more.
Yeah, so that's our lot of books. Let us know if there's any books that you have been reading or you would suggest. Judging from what we've just talked about, it's not a great mix, but but like yeah, if there's any books which you've been reading which you think are really good, or listening to an audiobook which you think have been really enjoyable as well, please let us know because we're always on the lookout for a new book.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always on my Storygraph looking at recommendations.
All right, we're gonna finish up this podcast, our first ever podcast, which I think has gone all right, isn't it, Shay?
I know. I've quite enjoyed doing this, so I'm looking forward to talking about movies and TV shows and books a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun little journey, isn't it, for 2025?
I know, and I hope you guys enjoy us rambling on or mumbling on.
Mumbling, but we are going to finish it up with some fun facts, aren't we?
Yeah.
And they're going to be really short fun facts, but facts and fun nonetheless. Like we said, we like fun, don't we?
Definitely.
What's your fun fact, Shay?
My fun fact is in Wicked, the first shot of the movie, you can actually see Dorothy's house is kind of in shambles, but it's like an aerial shot, and you can see like the planks and things like that. And apparently that's where that's how they made what's her name, Elphaba's statue that they burn.
There you go. There is a fun fact, and I believe you call that an Easter egg. And my little fun fact is, because I've been reading about history and stuff. This is from a different book that I read, but in the first London Zoo ever made was called the Royal Menagerie of at the Tower of London, and it hosted exotic animals from the 1200s to 1835. And they had like lions, polar bears, and other stuff, but it was all gifted to like kings and queens. And to get in, people could pay with a pet, and they would use that pet to feed one of the animals, usually the lions. So you, instead of paying like your 20 quid at the front, you could bring your cat, they'd chuck it into the lion pen, and the lion would have a meal, and you'd be able to get in for basically free. I imagine people used to go around looking for stray cats a lot in London at that time.
I reckon they must have had a lot of stray animals back in that time, because I don't know, like only the really rich can afford to keep pets, really.
I don't know. The thing that I was listening to is the history of London, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it was a really interesting book. But
history.
He didn't really talk about much about if people had pets. It was just you can use your pets to pay to get in. So maybe they didn't have. There was more bartering back then as well. So maybe they could bring stuff like veggies and things.
Yeah, I was curious when you said the word menagerie. I was like, well, what does that mean? But it actually means a collection of wild animals kept in captivity. So it's basically a zoo. So I think
we can call it a zoo then. I think it's just a fancy word for a zoo.
I know, but I'm thinking I'm gonna start using that instead of a zoo. I'm gonna just be like, oh, let's go to the menagerie.
Oh, so fancy. And on that note, we are gonna finish the podcast. Thank you for listening and watching.
Thank you.
If you've listened or watched, we're gonna put this out on like YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I think if I figure out how to do all that, we're still learning. So bear with us. Let us know what you think, where you can, or give us a review. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. I think we're going to be doing every 2 weeks, so every other week posting, because we work full time, so it's going to be when we can. But we just enjoy chatting about this stuff, and hopefully you can tell that we just like listening to our own voice sometimes.
Hopefully by then I finished my last Brandon Sanderson book.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. My opinions about the whole trilogy.
That's called a cliffhanger. That's something to bring you back in. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you later. I've been Isaac.
I'm Cheyenne.
Goodbye.
Bye.